your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, and we have a very special guest here on the program, and his name is Robert Sulnick. He's got a very interesting memoir, if you will, that we're going to dive right into. Nature's Ally is the name, and it's nature'sallymemoir.com. And we're going to be talking about this particular work. You know, throughout his career, Robert has been he's been at the vanguard, if you will, of the environmental campaign, and he's applying his knowledge to influence significant changes in practice as well as policy. And you've got a rather notable individual who has written your preface, if you will, or forward, Ted Danson. I beg your pardon, Danson. Ted Danson.
And Barbara Boxer.
Now, I want to start out because there's obviously, we both know, there's a lot of controversy when you start talking about environmental issues. And the first thing I want to share with you and get your observations and perspective is, when it comes to the conversation about climate change, I do not want to talk about the science. It is irrelevant because this is the position I take. Don't you think we should just clean up our home? I mean, really. And that doesn't take science. And of course, I pose the next element of this, and that is, you live in a home, you rent, you own, whatever. And I remember as a kid growing up, it was usually on a Saturday, mom and dad would say, okay, here's the list of chores. Richard, you're going to mow the lawn. And Michael, you're going to do this. And Elaine and Mary and Jeanette and Cecilia, you're going to do this. And off we went and we cleaned the house. And it wasn't because our neighbors were cleaning their houses. No, it had nothing to do with that. Or our relatives in other parts of the country were cleaning their house. No. It's because we wanted to live in a nice place. We wanted to live in a clean place for the next week, you know, changing the sheets on the bed and so on and so forth. And that's why I say, shouldn't we just clean up our home? All right. Could we just stop talking about the science? Is that a fair tact to take?
I'm not sure I agree. Let me just say a couple of introductory remarks.
Please.
Okay. I wrote this book to pass the baton to the next generation of environmental activists. And I have this lifetime experience set out in the book. And they are saddled with having to deal with existential global problem, climate change, which is changing our natural infrastructure and ecosystems. For example, the ocean, instead of becoming a climate sink, is becoming, and a carbon sink, is becoming a carbon emitter. Same with forests. And that's because of our overheating planet. So for me, it is existential. And I think the science is relevant, but I'm a lawyer, I deal in facts and stuff. No, but I want to move on very quickly. We can talk about whatever you want. This book also focuses on the adventure of doing this kind of a fight. Once you recognize nature is conscious, asking for our help, and will send guides to assist. Because it's a memoir, it focuses on actual things I've done, which involve the Industrial Revolution's effect on the climate, toxic waste effect on it, how to use celebrity advocates, understanding freshwater shortages, and explaining the techniques in ways that the next generation hopefully can use, which will require the internet, social media, and global coalitions. So there we are. That's my introductory remarks.
Do you find that people are beginning to understand maybe just a little about man's impact on the environment? Maybe not taking it to the nth degree, saying that, well, the reason why we have global warming is because man's been tossing carbon, CO2 into the air and blah, 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 blah. But bringing it closer to home, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, when we do certain things in our environment, whether it be in a large or small community or a county or let's say Northern versus Southern California, that kind of thing, and we make changes of a positive nature. When I say positive, meaning that we're, on the one hand, we are doing what we can to preserve our environment,
Mhm.
and at the same time, also allowing people to make a living doing what they're doing. Maybe not necessarily through all kinds of regulations, because I've only lived in California for 20 years. And when it came to regulations, as it was shared with me, I began to view the regulation paradigm in this fashion, Robert. There's this chessboard, black and white squares. All right. You are standing in the middle. You choose whether you choose to stand on a black square or a white one, but it's in the middle of the board. Now, here are the rules. And this is how bad regulations have gotten. And I'm not saying get rid of them all, but here's the scenario. You can't move forward. You can't move backward.
You're stuck.
Hang on. You can't move to the left. You can't move to the right. And you can't move diagonally. And guess what? The last rule, you can't stay there. That is how bad some regulations have gotten. However, I also recognize the reason behind regulations is primarily when they first started implementing them, businesses refused to do the right thing. And it kind of started with child labor laws.
That's true.
So there's a reason why we have certain regulations, but at the same time, would you not agree that they've kind of gone a little berserk?
Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I think regulations are important. I don't think they should inhibit progress. I mean, I've done a lot of work with environmental technologies,
Mm-hmm.
desalination, solar, the whole. I mean, we represent. My partner and I had a long history. Part of what I did was have an environmental consulting firm that worked with BP Solar and creating solar panels. Poseidon and desalination. I think that the regulations inhibiting the development of those things has been destructive because they are tech. We can't win this fight without use of technology. No way.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't win it without the private sector or government. Let me give you two quick examples. Santa Barbara City and County are very liberal. They have gone out of their way to try and be climate neutral by the next 10 years or so, 10, 15 years. I think that's great and appropriate.
Mhm.
However, as long as we have this tug of war going on over the technological climate technologies, we're just not, we are where you put us stuck.
Mm.
I am at a certain point, can't go forward. It's really interesting and it's intriguing to me. I mean, it's in the book, but it's really intriguing to me. Now, I'll give you a quick example. I don't know how you feel about this. Santa Barbara has a desalination plant, which is great because we have water shortages. However, the whole state has water shortages, and in the middle of the worst drought we've ever had, the environmental community opposed the development of a desalination plant in Huntington Beach. I was on the other side of that.
Mm.
As was my friend Barbara Boxer, God bless her. Anyway, um, it just didn't make any sense to me. And the Coastal Commission kind of sided with the environs. The plant did not get built. The amount of water which would have been taken from the sea and made into fresh water was never created. And the irony of that was right down the road, the exact same plant by the exact same Coastal Commission was permitted and providing San Diego with 10% of its fresh water. So yeah, I think we're stuck. And I mean, I agree with you that we're stuck, and it's frightening. Also, climate was 13th on the list of voter preferences in 2024.
Mm.
And it shouldn't be. I mean, what I like about what you said when you started is this is our home.
Yeah.
It's the only one we have, and it's in jeopardy. I mean, if those ecosystems don't function, I mean, they provide life for us. To me, it's that straightforward.
Yeah, and it's real interesting. The opponents of the environmental movement, and I'm going to put it this way: the environmental movement at large. Okay, the
Mhm.
opponents, they don't want to have anything to do with the environmental community because they don't want to have anything to do with them because they are concerned that well, they don't care about the human beings and our economy. I guess that's one of the things I have a problem with is the fact that not with the environmental movement, but with those who are opposed to do making any changes, is that their contention is that the most important element in our civilization, in our society, is the economy. And I'm sitting here thinking,
That's not true.
you've got your priorities screwed up because if you don't have an environment to live in,
You got nothing.
you got nothing. You have no economy
No, you have nothing.
and you have no community and so on and so forth. I want to address some other issues, but first I want to remind our listeners we're talking with our very special guest who's written a book. He also coined the phrase, you use it often, I'm sure, today. Let's agree to disagree. All right.
Oh, big time. And I had a great relationship with the oil industry. I sued them successfully, but we got to be friends. They had Ted Danson and I when we did American Oceans campaign. They flew us up to the uh, beginning of the Alaska pipeline in the Arctic.
Oh,
And
wow.
oh yeah, it was extraordinary. Ted and I were shooting hoops. It's a 24/7 facility, literally on the moon. And they all were, oh, there's Sam Malone shooting hoops, and they all came out. But they were for all environment. They were for all for the
Hmm.
environment. They just wanted to develop energy. Now,
Yeah.
we're not opposed to developing energy. However, we really need to acknowledge that fossil fuels are overheating the planet, and we have to reduce them.
Yeah.
And so, because I mean, what you said about our home really struck me correctly. This is it. And for those who don't see that, it's tragic.
I find it interesting too that there's this position that the non I don't know, I don't know of any other way to put it, because there are people in different political perspectives who are having a problem with this, but they will use this, they love to use these coveralls that all Democrats, for example, want to take away everybody's guns. Not true.
No,
Absolutely not true.
of
And that
course.
all Democrats want to do this and that, the other thing with the environment. And one of them in particular, this is the one I wanted to bring up, is that the all Democrats, all right, want to eliminate fossil fuels. Well, the reality is that we make a lot of products out of petroleum, not just fuels that power our boats and planes and cars, and that we need, just like they did at the turn of the 19th century, from the 18th to the 1900s, when we went from horse and buggy to automobile.
Amen. I use that all the time.
I'm sitting here going, then you must be really upset with and want to get rid of people like, oh, I don't know, Elon Musk and his Tesla and anybody else that's making electric cars, because they are basically encouraging people to get off of fossil fuels. But then they take it to the next, I consider, illogical conclusion. Well, you can't get off of fossil fuels because most of the parts and materials to build the solar panels and the electric cars and the wind turbines that we put up, like the ones out in Palm Springs, out of Palm Springs off of I-10, require petroleum. We're not saying to stop using petroleum altogether. We're saying we need to work and move away from powering our transportation with fossil fuels. And the other aspect of it is, why isn't the fuel industry like Exxon and Shell and so on and so forth investing more money in the concept of hydrogen fuel? I mean, there were people who even came up with water powered engines that got pretty darn good gas mileage and so forth, and had little or no emissions. And even those emissions were not harmful. It wasn't CO2.
You
So,
know,
have you had those kinds of conversations with
yeah,
the oil industry?
yeah, well, absolutely. Let me respond. Yes. Um, we, I started saying years ago that the oil industry needed to become an energy industry. And I got a lot of traction in the 90s. Like British Petroleum CEO, then John Brown, got it. And he said to me, okay, look, let's do solar energy together. I thought, great, this is perfect. And then Exxon Shell said to me, let's do low sulfur diesel fuels. And I thought, that'd be great to me, get the sulfur out of diesel. And Evergreen Oil said, let's recycle used motor oil, because oil never wears out, by the way. You could clean it and use it forever. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
did all three of those things. And we were developing a very strong movement towards what you're talking about. However, the politics of this has just overwhelmed it. No, I wasn't going to bring up politics, but we're in a climate where climate change is called a hoax politically on that, and that really has emboldened and changed the oil industry to where it said, okay, let's just drill as much as we can. Now that cannot happen. I don't disagree with what you're saying. You're not going to phase out all oil and gas. Not going to, maybe over decades, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not quickly. Not going to happen. But we can do what you just said. The transportation industry can start to run electric and hybrid. We could do all kinds of things like that and just move on together. but we're having a trouble getting together, which is why I like your podcast here. I really think you are advocating that, and I approve of it.
Well, thank you. And just a reminder, this podcast and video cast, as well as broadcast, it's called Tell Me Your Story. My special guest here on the program, Robert Sulnick, is my guest, and he is talking about his latest work. It's called Nature's Ally Memoir. It is a memoir, and it's nature'sallymemoir.com, which we will be linked to. Santa Barbara is known
Well,
as
yeah.
the birthplace of the environmental movement, and especially Earth Day.
1969, the oil spill.
Yeah.
Huh?
Talk to us a little bit about your experiences back in 1969 with this whole movement. Is that when you got involved, or were you concerned
No, I
before?
was before that. No, let me take it back. That was a wake-up call. 1969 oil
Mhm.
spill. Santa Barbara oil spill was devastating. The whole coastline up and down, how many animals were killed, and the economy devastated. And we believe here, we created the environmental movement out of that, which I think was great. I got involved in the 80s. Prior to that, I was a law professor, just a plain old law, teaching torts, which I got to really like and use in these cases we're going to talk about if we get to the talking about the cases. But what happened to me is, I think, metaphysical. And I think, Richard, you and I agree on this. I'm not sure. But there's no way to explain my evolution logically. I mean, my wife and I, when the Bhopal gas disaster happened in 1984,
Mm-hmm.
Connie and I were walking on the beach, and she said, "Bob, you're a really good lawyer. All the lawyers go over there to get involved. You should go to India and get involved." I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "No, our dentist is Indian. Let me call him." She did. He had a cousin on the court. A week later, she and I were in India. They were still burning the bodies, and I had 1,000 clients. Now, there's no way to explain that logic. And while that process was going on, I had an experience at Sanchi. I don't know if you know what Sanchi. Sanchi is the oldest Buddhist room in India. And we were there. I fell asleep, bunch of monkeys jumping around. And I had a real vision about nature hurting and calling out for help. And that changed my whole life. I came home, resigned my tenure, started at the law school, started environmental practice, and the rest is history. But I got help. I mean, I had the strangest guides. I didn't have any money to finance the cases. However, while in India, I met a guy who looked just like Colonel Sanders. And he was a lawyer, owned Las Vegas casinos. He was going to finance the cases. But that happened from then on. There's no way I should have become partners with Ted Danson. No way I should have had Casmelia waste dump. But I was kind of taken there. And I think that could happen to this generation of activists if they understand and allow it. And it's really fun. It really is fun.
I'll tell you, it's fascinating to have these conversations, and especially go down that particular road, as we do quite often, the metaphysical, if you will, the spiritual aspects, because it is part of who and what we really are. It's funny. I worked back in the 80s and early 90s for a Christian radio station, and of course, I was, even before then, I was very interested in spirituality and metaphysics and all of that, and searching. As a matter of fact, my search began officially, I say, when I was 17, and I got into broadcasting at 19. But I remember talking with some people, and I said, "You do know that Christianity is a metaphysical philosophy?" And of course, they were appalled. It is not. It is no. I said, "Do you even know what the word means? Do you even know what the word means?" And they said, "Oh, no." Well, it means beyond the physical, and most everything that Yeshua spoke of was beyond the physical. The kingdom of God is within you, and you are God's, and so on and so on and so on. So this is who and what we really are. Is, again, as the phrase goes, it's kind of a tired phrase, but nonetheless, we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Right.
And that what we're dealing with right now, what you're dealing with as far as the environmental movement and so forth, what I deal with what I'm dealing with in my life, it's all temporary.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and in
That,
100, a
that's right.
thousand, 10,000 years, no one's gonna care.
That is right on. It is
Yeah. But
all temporary.
but by the same token, Robert, you would also recognize too that while we're here,
We have to do something. I
yeah,
couldn't agree more. And I think we have to. I think we have to make a contribution beyond ourselves,
yeah,
bigger than us.
yeah,
That's
I would
that's
agree with
my
you on
belief.
that. Yeah.
100%. And
And
then,
you're doing that through this particular work. When
yep.
did you start, when did you realize, hey, I need to
Maybe,
put together my memoirs, and then of course Nature's Ally. When did you begin the contemplation process? When did your inner voice say, "Hey, get
1984.
computer, get in front of that typewriter, and
And
start writing stuff down"?
I've been working on this book a long time because, and when I mean, in 1984, I really got the message in India. Now, I didn't really want to go to India. It wasn't a destination I wanted to go, but it changed my whole life.
Mm.
Then, as I began to do these other things, like represent the town of Casmea, right outside Santa Maria here, where the Casmea toxic waste dump was located. It was supposed to take all the toxic waste from LA. These things started to teach me things about what we're doing to our environment with toxicants. I mean, it's just crazy. And I started developing techniques of how to respond. And it was really fun and important, I think, and successful. But I started thinking about the book maybe 10 years ago. And it's been taking that long to put it together. But I loved every minute of doing it.
Mm.
But
Mm.
also, I want to be clear. This has taken me to some extraordinary. It took me to the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, working with the Gwich'in Indians to save it. I mean, it took me into the middle of the Congress on stopping offshore oil drilling. It's just taken me places that have been beyond anything I could have done logically. And so I attribute that to what you were just talking about, which is spirituality.
Yeah. Do you feel on that level that we as individuals, maybe not so much as individuals, but collective individuals, in other words, groups
Mhm.
thereof, of like mindset, if you will, are having an impact on our environment aside from what we're putting out into the world materially? Do you think that our collective energies, whether we be in favor of or against doing something for the environment, is affecting it in that
Yeah,
regard? And that's
both.
also something that has to change?
Well, it's affecting it both ways. So I want to be clear about this. Clearly, it has to change. I mean, collectively, we are egocentric, I think. And that egocentricity is really hurting the bigger concept of our environment, which is our home. But there is a collection of people who are trying really hard to become involved in preserving our environment. And they're doing more than just talking about it. I mean, they are driving electric cars, they're electrifying our homes, they're taking public transportation. People here get off the train and ride bikes to their offices in Santa Barbara. And that's having a real impact. And it's also having an impact on our local politics, which I admit are very liberal, but I also approve of them in terms of getting rid of the carbon imprint by 2030. If they cut down, they'll do it by 2030, but they're trying. And they need to be applauded for trying. That make any sense?
It does indeed. It does indeed. You know, folks, this is no longer about a hypothetical future.
Right.
In fact, I remember hearing, I didn't hear it then, but I remember hearing the historical information that was released in the 1960s, the decade I was born, that we needed to make some changes in the way in which we do things. All right. And I'll use that very generic term. And in light of that report from our own government, do
Right.
you know what we did, folks? Nothing.
Right.
We did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's the issue.
I'll be
That
honest with you, Robert. There's a part of me that says, you know what? I don't expect our government nor our institutions to do anything because it's not up to them, is it? It's up to us, right?
we are it. I agree with you. I think we're responsible for who we elect and what they do. And without being elected, they can't get there. And we are responsible. And what you just said, though, is really important. We, the collective us, is responsible for creating the movement or the institutional of the ability to make change. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen from the top down necessarily. It's going to have to happen from the bottom up, which is why I think, this book is hopefully will reach the next generation of activists and they can do something that's in the most of what the environmental community does now is from the 20th century and it's localized. Not going to work. We are in a global context of a global existential problem, and you have to treat it globally. And I think you have to use modern technology, internet, social media to do that, or you're not going to make an impact. It becomes a kind of form of entertainment, which is gross. And I
Yeah.
think, not very useful and not good entertainment.
Let me ask you before we pause again. I want to ask you then, um, if if we are really on the other side of the line, in other words,
Mhm.
there is no way for us at this point to affect the kind of change that we need to reverse the global change. But let me throw this one other element in there that science, archaeological science, has shown that this planet has been through multiple climate changes up and down, ice ages and overheating back to ice ages and so forth, and that this is nothing more than a normal process that man just has to deal with.
I don't obviously don't agree with that. Um, I think that the process we're going through right now is so powerful. And the thing I learned in Bhopal, that killed 10,000 people. That was a pesticide plant where it just kind of exploded, killed 10,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
included everything within 8 kilometers. That kind of power for a man-made human created is really devastating and is devastating nature's ability to sustain us. You said initially about our home. I couldn't agree more. This is our home. But if we don't understand the natural functioning of nature to sustain us, and that this ability to it's 177 degrees in 2024 in southern Iran. I mean, that's not livable. And that's human caused. Now, I understand we've gone through climate change, but not like this one, because this one is created by an ongoing power of industrialization and human. You talked about it a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
For money and economics is just driving crazy, and we need a movement that can, from the grassroots, understand that we have a global crisis and treat it globally.
Have we crossed that tipping point?
Well, that's a good question. I bring this up in my book. There is a, a movement called doomism. And no, science doesn't think we've quite crossed it. It's 1.5 degrees Celsius increase, which I think we've crossed, has created a new normal of environmental heat, fires, droughts, etc. Two is pretty scary, but we can still avoid two. We could do it the way you said. We really don't have to say, oh, all fossil fuels have to go, because it's not going to happen. But we could say the transportation sector or local governments could say they're going to do it and begin a slow movement to keep us from going over 2 degrees Celsius warmer. That's going to be really radical. But I think doomism is just it's a political movement to continue business as usual, and I don't agree with it. And I know you said about science at the beginning of the conversation, but science doesn't agree with it. They still think that we have time if we act to reduce the fossil emissions to deal with this problem.
Mm.
But I don't think doomism. You shouldn't get into that.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a term, and then there's another one, of course, dealing with our social media and our devices that I had never heard of before, and that was doom scrolling. Doom.
That's great.
Really?
Oh,
Are
man.
you kidding me? I will tell you what I do when I'm scrolling through the reels, let's say on Facebook, and that is if it's dealing with politics, I scroll right on by. If if it's a clip from a television show that I like, say Barney Miller, MASH, or any of the others that come up, or if it's a comedian, um, the others I scroll past that tell you, okay, the algorithm has brought you here by mistake, but not by mistake. So stay here for about 6 seconds and as soon as, or they'll tell me that you are going to be blessed by God with a great abundance. If you stay here, you send it to yourself and you send it to others. I scroll on by because it's like there are people who will buy into that. I get that.
Yeah.
Because,
Oh, well, absolutely.
yeah.
And some will buy into it to continue doing what they want, irrespective.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
And then there's also, especially from my days at the Christian station, 15 years I was there, and of course the talk about Armageddon, and it was really interesting how every time there was the equivalent of somebody just sneezing or burping in Israel. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. I mean, prophecies are being fulfilled because of that sneeze, and I'm just like, really? Could you just bring it down a couple of notches and relax a little bit? I mean, I am not one of those who really believes in a lot of these prophecies, and I may be proven wrong, and that's fine. If that's going to be the case, I'm open to that. But the realities are that everybody has a different perspective on quote unquote prophecies, including Nostradamus prophecies or my local neighborhood psychics prophecies. Everybody has, and there are those who say, oh no, all of these biblical prophecies, they've already happened. They happened in the first and second centuries. Others say, no, it's going on now. And others say, oh, no, it's thousands. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. You're doing
It's
great.
hundreds of years away and on and on and on. And I'm just sitting here going, I would really like to just live my life, have some abundance in my life to do more of what I love to do, which is these kinds of programs and others.
Well, I think this kind of thing you're doing here is really valuable. You're
I'd
communicating.
like to think so.
You're communicating beyond yourself a really respectable point of view. Congratulations for doing it. I have to go back to the thing about prophecy.
Please.
I don't really think about prophecy. I really don't.
I don't either.
Yeah, I just think they're not relevant to me. I think about what I need to do with the energy, God's given me, nature's given me, to make a difference in the world. That to me is what I think about.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. We're talking with our very special guest author of Nature's Ally. Nature's Ally Memoir.com is the website. And his name is Robert Sulnick. And my name is Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan. And this is Tell Me Your Story. The past, the present, and the future, some say, especially when you start talking about quantum physics,
Oh, great,
metaphysics, all happening at the same time.
great.
And that we have been through, there are those who say we've been through 5 human self-extinction events as long as man has been on the planet. 5, and that we are allegedly headed towards number 6. And I'm going to share something with you real quick, Robert.
Yeah.
And that is, I have interviews with a woman out of Ireland who channels the Pleiades.
Oh,
Pleiadians, right?
yeah.
The head of the Pleiadians, at least as far as conversations that I have, their name is Ashtar. Okay. And according to my interviews with this woman, and I've had quite a number of them, the bottom line is that the Pleiadians and others out there in the universe will not allow us to destroy ourselves a 6th time. Now, they will not physically intervene, but what they will do, it's kind of like you or I listening to that still small voice. They will put impressions, they will impress upon someone or someone's to do certain things that will prevent the destruction of the human race.
Well, you just described what I was trying to do with my book for this next generation of activists. Because I'm fortunate for them, but this burden fell onto them. That's the way it goes, boys and girls. There it is. And you got it. What are you going to do with it? You can't do business as usual. I'm going to work.
Now, I interviewed a gentleman out of Florida many years ago. He's since passed on. His name, oh my goodness.
Oh, bad. How bad? Sorry.
Well, he actually had an organization called the Venus Project. Jacques Fresco, that I think was his name, if I'm remembering correctly. And when I interviewed him, he was in his 90s, and he was talking about a lot of the architectural drawings he had for for future civilizations. They were very circular in nature, right? And you would live in housing that was on the periphery and travel inward to where you might go to work, if of course you weren't working remotely. And of course, he talked about the new economic system, basically where you did contribute to the community in exchange for being able to, let's just say, walk into, I don't know, an electronics store. You needed, let's just say, a USB flash drive. All right. And there's this giant barrel of them. And you just go in, you pick one up, and you walk out. All right. You're not stealing because there's no charge in that respect. So that if someone were to come up to you outside the store at gunpoint wanting that USB drive, they wouldn't be stealing it from you. You just give it to them saying, hey, look, here you go. I'm saving you a trip over here to where you could get as many as you wanted, right? And he went on and on about the 3 pillars, if you will, or the 3 legs of this particular society. And after our conversation, I asked him, I said, so when is this going to happen in my lifetime and yours and so forth? He says, it definitely won't happen in mine. And he was in his 90s at the time. And it probably won't happen in yours. Right. Which I says, well, but I want it now.
Right now.
But he wasn't talking about a utopia. I mean, he was talking about a new paradigm, as we talk about, a new way of thinking, a new way of being, a new way of doing that took others into consideration. So we have this supposed dynamic between individualism and collective or communalism, not communism, communalism, that we're all connected. What's your perspective? How do you balance, let's just say what it says in the Declaration, we the people, et cetera, in order to form a more perfect government, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. And then and among these inalienable rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But it also talks about how we are here to promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves,
everybody,
our posterity. How do you balance your individual rights, let's just say under the First Amendment or the Second and so forth, with your responsibility to your family, your community, city, state, nation, etc.
Okay, this is the cliche. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. I mean, one will clearly take care of one's family as they should, 100%. But at the same time, you could take care of your community. You could take care of nature. No, there's no mutual exclusivity here at all. It's all happening simultaneously. This is the way I look at it. People are caught in their boxes where they're comfortable and they don't know how to get out. So they keep doing what they know how to do, which has become obsolete. It's not working. But there's no reason you can't do all of that at the same time. We have that capacity, 100%, my view.
So it is something that can be done.
100%. And should be done and is in certain segments of the society being done.
Well, I am continuing to be optimistic. I don't buy into the prophecies of people who have these particular philosophies of doom and gloom, because I am one who sometimes, as hard as it is, am willing to take responsibility for my life and what I have created in it, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, until my death.
Rich, I don't mean to interrupt. I feel we also have to take responsibility for our world, for nature, for our environment, because without it, we don't exist.
That is true.
Right?
Yeah. It's kind of like what we talked about earlier in the program, that if you don't have an environment, you have nothing else. You have nothing else. You know?
I'm actually referring to the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, about liberty and justice for everyone.
Yeah.
That's bottom line.
Yeah.
100%.
Do you buy into this a perspective that some like to bring up about our founding documents, that they were only intended for white male plantation owners or wealthy or what have you?
Oh, that's silly. I mean, maybe they were in their minds, but no. If you create a new government and put together its principles, they have to be for everybody, or you really didn't create anything.
Yeah.
Other than the status quo.
And it seems to me that because of where we are today, that has been, as you've described, the interpretation, especially over the last 100 to 150 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you take a look at people like Abraham Lincoln, and of course, the Emancipation Proclamation, especially. Obviously, he believed that these documents were for everybody. That's very, very interesting. We're talking today in the program with our very special guest, Robert Sulnick, and his book is Nature's Ally. That's right, Nature's Ally.
You got it.
We're talking about this on Tell Me Your Story. I want to ask you, Robert Sulnick, about Nature's Ally, and I want to ask you, do you see yourself and the rest of us humans as not actually part of nature, or that's the ally aspect of it, that we're just as much a part of nature as the trees and the dirt? And
100%, we are intricately a part of nature. That's the point. Therefore, everyone can connect with nature because it's us. We're it. We are it. And as it should be. And I think that's the beauty of being alive and human, to be honest.
And even from a biblical standpoint, it says too, for ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And wasn't it Carl Sagan, I believe, who made the comment that we're all made out of the same stardust?
Well, you mentioned quantum physics before. I don't think we have time to get into it. But I do think that has suggested that we are all made up of the same universal stuff, which our Earth is made up of. No question.
What do you think about Elon's wanting to go to Mars and colonize Mars and sort of say, look, I realize we kind of screwed up the planet Earth, Terra.
Well, unless we get a different ethnic on this screw up Mars. I mean, we can't do the same thing that we're doing.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, this is the only planet we have. There is no planet B. And even if we did go to Mars and then we messed it up, then where are you going to go now?
No, you can't. And we're not going to go to Mars for
Yeah.
many, maybe generations. But yeah, this is it. And the
Yeah.
thing is, Richard, this is such a gorgeous planet, so vital, so wonderfully terrific. I mean, I've lived in some great natural environments, and it's extraordinary. You
Yeah.
ever see elk come out of the woods at sunset, or a bear climbing up the tree? I mean, these things are extraordinary, and it's so beautiful. And I
Yeah.
can't imagine how people can't see the connection to it and want to protect it.
I know you currently live in the Santa Barbara area on the Central Coast. I used to live there and loved it, and the people do refer to it as a paradise on the Pacific, that kind of thing. And I always loved going out to the beach and listening to the
Oh,
surf and
right.
sometimes and in it. Um, what about our? I mean, we're made up of what is it? About 95%.
Yeah.
Yeah, our connection is living by the water as you are. Has
Help.
that is that has
Helps.
kind of
Helps.
part of
Helps.
your
Yeah.
mindset?
That well, I wasn't conscious. I mean, I'm drawn to the ocean. I
Mhm.
love being in it. We created American Ted Danson and American Oceans campaign. I learned a tremendous about ocean vitality, what it does to maintain our world ecosystem. But I am definitely drawn to the water. No
Mm.
question about it.
Well, I remember when we moved to Santa Barbara, I had always wanted to live by the ocean, but I had not decided where. I had no clue. I didn't care in one sense, as long as it was by the ocean that was ebbing in and out and in and out. Then I find myself in the Santa Barbara area, and I'm just going, wow, this is unique, especially because the
It's
shore faces south,
right. Yeah,
which was
and
amazing.
most people don't know that. That's right.
Yeah. And I've loved it. I remember going out to Goleta Beach
Yeah.
one day after a day at work. I was working at that time for a company called Bargain Network, which no longer exists. Anyway, I went out there to the beach, and I decided I'm going to get in there and I'm going to swim. And so I'm up to my neck in the water and my bathing suit and just feeling the water and the ocean around me and everything. But there were still those who said, oh, no, you shouldn't be going into the ocean because there's this contaminant and that potential and on and on and on. And not to mention the wildlife, if you will, the sharks and so forth. And I think that my perspective has been most of my life is, I know when I got here, my arrival ticket says June 26, 1960. I don't know when I'm leaving, and I have no control over that.
No.
You know, I'll only know when I go.
Well, that's true.
So in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy myself, take the best care of myself that I can. Um, what you and so I'm going to go ahead and ask this question directly, but I get the gist that you are still optimistic about man's future on the planet.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, I couldn't have written this book. I wouldn't be on this show with you. 100%. Yeah, of course I am.
Mm,
I just think we need to turn a slight corner, understand we are part of nature, and protect it like it's us.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Robert is with us here on the program talking about his memoir. Again, this is Robert Sulnick and Nature's Ally. Nature'sAllyMemoir.com is the website. And he's been quite busy throughout his life doing what he can to move us in a direction that is more livable. I think that's the best way to put
That's a
it,
good way.
livable for all of us to basically this new paradigm, if you will, if I may quote that, coin that in that regard, of looking for those new ways. I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, my father passed at the age of 92. He was born in 1931. All right. He was born almost 60 years before I came along. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. 30 years before I came along. I can only imagine what has gone through his mind while he was here about the changes, the innovations, the inventions. I've only
Amazing.
been here for a scant 66 years. And just in the broadcast industry, the changes that I have been through, and I can only imagine, and maybe I can't even imagine yet, what's coming, let alone in the next year, but the next 5, 10, 20, 50 years. And between you and me, I want to live to be 100.
Well, I hope you do.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be phenomenal.
It is phenomenal, and the changes are radical. Whew.
Yeah. Do you think that that's another challenge that we face, and that is that we've got to make peace with the fact, not the opinion or belief, but the fact that things change. Nothing's
Change.
permanent.
No, nothing's permanent. Everything changes constantly, moment to moment. We do too. Our bodies do.
Is there a method that you found that allows you to embrace that concept so that when changes come, you're not your world isn't rocked like a lot of people?
Richard, it's hard. I want to be clear. It's very difficult. But it seems to me if you have a sustained faith or ability in what you're doing and the importance of it, it will allow you to move with the flow.
Hmm.
That's what I think.
What
But
about the
it's hard. I don't
yeah.
mean to downplay it.
What are your thoughts? Because this conversation, this topic comes up in most conversations these days. What are your thoughts in regards to our being influenced, if you will,
Mhm.
by this new technology that we call AI?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's all over. Can't order a pizza without. I tried to order a pizza the other day. Took me 3 tries with AI. To send a damn
Oh,
pizza. It was bizarre. Well, we're not going to be able to avoid it. Whether we'll be able to make peace with it, integrate it, I don't know. I'm having a hard time to be candid. I think this is so ubiquitous at this point. And like the can order a pizza. To deal with. That was pretty weird.
well, what I can tell you about my experiences with AI that I view as nothing more than a hammer. It's a tool. All right. It is a tool. And my question to most people is if you have a challenge before you, have you considered, because AI has access to all the information on the internet, asking AI for a solution?
Oh, listen, I write a lot. I'm a columnist for News Press, have been for News Hawk, English Standard. I use it a lot to get information. It's very good for that.
Mhm.
It really helps.
I mean, the big concern with AI these days is, of course, the constructing of these data centers that require massive amounts of electricity, which I don't
And
understand,
water, and water.
and also water to keep it cool. And I'm going, why? Why do you need these data? I thought AI was a program, digits, zeros, and ones, and that it was nothing more than another app that you have on your phone or your computer that is accessing the information that already exists on the internet. So, why are these data centers even needed? And I'm not asking you that
No,
question.
I understand. But
You
I
know,
do have a suggestion. I think it's for the computing power that they want to use it for. I mean,
yeah.
that's why you need all that energy.
Well, you remember 10 and 15 years ago when they were advertising the latest and greatest computer and it's faster and it's faster than, it's faster than, it's faster than. You don't see those commercials anymore. You don't. It doesn't talk about speed anymore because everything is now about as fast as it's going to get. And if it's going to get faster, they just make it faster. They don't tell you, they just make it faster. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, why wouldn't the same scenario apply with AI that, all right, right now you say you need these massive data centers, but in 5 years or less, maybe it'll be condensed down to, I don't know, a desktop tower, that
But
kind of thing.
I do think, Ken, I mean, I don't know much about AI and the data centers yet because I haven't really researched it. But if you're going to install these things and they really do take up massive amounts of water and electricity, you got to deal with the grid and the water short. I mean, do you know the Colorado River feeds like how many hundreds of people in states, 8 states? It's running out of water, and like in Arizona, they're in real trouble, and they've already imposed a moratorium on building. I mean, you've
Yeah.
got to take those things into consideration, and the fact that we don't is evidentiary of the problem we're facing.
Yeah. Well, by the same token, I will tell you that in the 70s, about Arizona, because I was born and raised in Phoenix, about the Colorado River, what you just said, they were saying that back in the 70s, and then again in the 80s, and then again in the 90s, and then again in the 2000s. It's like they say the same thing, for example, you about Social Security. Are they going to run out in 10 years? They were saying that in the 70s. And then they said it again in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s and the 2000 teens. And they're saying it again in the 2020s. And I don't believe them.
Oh, I do.
Do not believe them because
I
it's
do,
like crying wolf.
but I do because of the levels of Lake Mead and Lake Powell, which are the reservoirs we use to distribute the water.
Yeah.
They're really low. I mean, it's scary how low they are. But you know, this is where we can agree to disagree. Continue on, right? No
But here's
problem.
an interesting thing though, Robert. All right, let's just say that the temperatures continue to rise a bit. I mean, you said 1.5
Yeah,
degrees, it's gone
warming
up.
is over.
So here's my theory. This is just a theory on my part. The air increases in temperature, it rises, right? And especially out over the water, the ocean.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So what happens is you have the evaporation, if you will, of the surface water, and it goes up into the sky. And
That's
it
right.
accumulates in clouds that then move with the air currents over the land and drops the water, which is now ionized and it's also clean. You don't have to filter it. Uh, it's doing the nature is doing its natural thing, in that it's like a desalinization plant, but it's nature's desal plant, and you have more than enough. Do you think maybe that's also part of our problem, is that we keep thinking there isn't enough when in fact we've got more than enough for everybody?
You know, this is a really interesting point because I have always agreed in abundance. Where it is, and I think zero sum is a bad idea, and it's certainly a bad way to make policy.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes no sense to me. So I don't necessarily disagree, but the fact that the heat and the water is changed, this is the point that really makes me scared. What you described is changing the chemistry of the ocean, which we rely on for our ability to have a livable environment. And there's no question in my mind that that's true. And like I said in the earlier part of this conversation, it's changed the ocean from a carbon sink to a carbon emitter. All that hot heat water, and that hot water that goes up just creates stronger hurricanes. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that need
Yeah.
to be. You just need to take them all into account before you make a plan.
Well, granted, I am no scientist. I'm no meteorologist or archaeologist. All I know is that when I get information and I start processing it in the good, in the logic solving problem brain that I've been given, I start to question the logic of some of the people that are supposedly in charge. And
I
I
think
think that
I think you should. I think you should question everything. I have no
Yeah.
problem with that. I think it's healthy.
Yeah. And the biggest problem I have, though, is that I hear more complaining than problem solving. I hear more blaming
Well,
than problem solving.
it's easy to complain. It's easy. It's hard to solve. You got to do all the work. That's the point. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, for those of us in the 21st century, we're given this conundrum where we have to do a lot of work together.
Yeah. Well, the one thing about man is that she is very resilient.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
have been. And
I agree.
I look at it this way. Saw this one little short talking about our ancestors. And it says, think about this. Your ancestors, go back as far as you want. Your ancestors survived.
Yeah.
Whatever came their way, they survived to the extent that you exist, that you're even here. So be grateful for them and what they went through that has allowed you to be here. And now, what are you going to do as what you've done? You've written this book called Nature's Ally, your memoir, that I believe is going to make a difference for future generations.
Oh, thank you.
And and we will survive. We will make it
Oh,
through,
I think we'll survive.
and we will
I
thrive.
really think we will survive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you find yourself thriving there in Santa Barbara?
I really like it. This is going to sound strange. We lived in LA for 20 some years. And I liked it there because it was so vital with infrastructure. You could see it, feel, manipulate it was gritty. I liked all that.
Mhm.
Santa Barbara's good, but it doesn't have that kind of vitality. It doesn't have it. And that's not a criticism. It's just the way it is.
Just an
But
observation. Yeah.
yeah, oh, it's a great place to live.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I really like all the. I mean, I could feel and work with the infrastructure in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And then we moved to New Mexico, which I fell in love with. It was like major wonder.
Mm. Well, I was born and raised in Phoenix, and unfortunately, from my perspective, I don't have a hometown anymore. It has been ruined. I've been back a couple of times driving through, and it is just from, again, this is my perspective, ladies and gentlemen. It is one of the ugliest cities I have ever seen. It is not my hometown. When I was a kid growing up, it was beautiful. But nobody listened to me when I said, if you keep laying down asphalt and concrete and getting rid of the flora, you are creating, this has nothing to do with climate change. You're creating a heat island,
Yep, no doubt.
you know?
That's
So,
true.
but hey, so be it.
So
I consider Santa Barbara more of a hometown, even though I only lived there for 20 years.
if you wanted to just make a plug, I love New Mexico.
Yeah.
And I was the environmental director for the Eight Northern Indian Pueblos, the campaign chair for the Alliance to Save the Rio Grande. But it was just so much fun and so vital.
Hmm.
Nature was so accessible. It was spectacular. Also, the green chili was great. I loved it.
Well, my grandmother used to make green chili tamales, and
Oh my God, that's great. They were the best green chili. I had green chili 3 times a day
oh,
sometimes.
and also the red chili tamales.
Yeah,
Okay, no
red
jalapenos, no jalapenos. Thank you.
Christmas. Christmas.
Oh, just incredible, just incredible. Well, I'll tell you, Robert, this has been a fascinating discussion. We've kind of gone back and forth across the line and all over the place in that regard. But the bottom line is, as you stated and as I've stated, this is our home and we need to take care of it. Please.
Please, please. Amen.
Yeah.
Hey, Richard, thank you for having me. I really can't tell you how much I appreciate it, and I really love this conversation.
Well, thank you. And I want to remind our listeners you can go to nature'sallymemoir.com. Will be linked. And also get yourself a copy of Nature's Ally, his memoir, and his being Robert Sulnick.
Yeah,
And he is
on Amazon. That's it.
Yeah, and he's there in Santa Barbara. Maybe you can get in touch with him through the website as well, find out more about what he's doing. And, you don't have to do anything monumental, folks. Just do the little you do around your place. Keep your space clean. And even if maybe your immediate neighbors don't do anything, you will still be an example to the people around you.
100% correct.
Yeah. So, Robert, I have three final questions that I ask all of my guests. I'm going to ask you. But before I do, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 p.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com, with podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We're also on YouTube, where you can watch these conversations, and I hope you'll subscribe and click notification. I also hope that you'll go to Amazon.com, pick up a copy of my book, which is Choices, 5 Steps for Life, available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. And also, if you can help us out financially, we would be ever so grateful. We have a Zella as well as PayPal account, and you use the same access point. It's my email address, which is richard@richarddugan.com. And thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. And finally, let me ask you to take some time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, and go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to and follow the promptings of that still small voice. And with all that being said, we move into the final 3 questions for our very special guest. And the first of those 3 questions is, who is Robert Sulnick?
Oh, God, that's a great question. He's a guy who has learned that he is part of nature and is one of nature's allies, 100%.
What gets you up in the morning?
The wanting to stay involved in the struggle, because it has become a struggle to keep this humanity. I think humanity is great. I want to keep it alive, but it needs nature.
And finally, what was your best day?
Ever?
Yep.
Oh, the day I met my wife. She was like, I took one look at her and knew. I didn't even say hi yet. And we've been together 45 years.
Well, congratulations. And once again, thank you so much for being a part of the work that we are doing here on Tell Me Your Story.
Richard, thank you. I really appreciate it. I've had a great time.
And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to all. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. To my brother, Michael, welcome to fatherhood. And to my dear friend, Zorro, aho, aho.